Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video. Today I'll be going over the patch notes for the 12.8 patch that's likely going to hit the servers within a week and talk about some of the most significant changes and some of the little things that I'm most excited for. I'm actually kind of surprised by the amount of new items that are coming in addition to a pretty huge list of much requested changes and tweaks to the UI. This patch is chock full of quality of life improvements plus new weapons and gear. The highly anticipated Woods expansion isn't coming immediately with the patch, but according to their last podcast, it is coming shortly after and before the 12.9 patch. So with that intro out of the way, let's get into the patch notes, starting with the newly added mechanics and items. First up, we have one of the most requested additions to Tarkov, the Compass, a seemingly simple and essential survival tool that was suspiciously absent in Escape from Tarkov. I honestly thought that it was never coming, but at long last, an actual usable in-game compass is going to be added to the game, with a keybind to pull it out and check your heading. The compass will go in a new inventory slot and you'll never lose it, so it's going to become a core part of our equipment and will definitely change our ability to quickly coordinate direction and make callouts with the team. Next up, we have two new skills, both related to the hideout, called Hideout Management and Crafting. I don't think we got any in-depth mention of what they do, but my best guess is that they'll reduce the cost of hideout upgrades and hopefully speed up your crafting process over time. There's also a line in the patch notes that says added a counter for ready items after crafting in the hideout, which I'm not exactly sure about, but I'm hoping it means we can ready up the next craft while one is already going. Next, we have a new mechanic called Heavy Bleeding, which is a more severe form of blood loss that can only be healed with certain items and actually leaves a visible blood trail wherever your character moves. This is one of the coolest new additions in my opinion, and will add a very unique level of immersion when hunting other players, giving us some limited ability to track their movements while they're hurt. Two new items have also been added to heal these bleeds, a tourniquet and a hemostatic syringe. I think it would be interesting if the tourniquet applied a movement debuff, but that might be a little bit too punishing. For other new items, we have 3 new weapons confirmed for 12.8, the M45A1 handgun, KS23 shotgun, and the Kel-Tec RFB rifle. I'm always game for new weapons, and the patch notes also say we'll be getting new mods for various weapons, so expect some new builds for the 12.8 patch. In addition to the new weapons, we're getting at least one new armor, a backpack, helmet, and headset that was briefly shown during the dev podcast, and I'll be uploading a video breaking them down right when the patch hits. We're also getting a bunch of cosmetic items, including new clothing for both factions, a new voice for the bears, and other cosmetic items like a sweet looking beret which just added major style points to the no helmet gang. The 12.8 patch was definitely focused on quality of life, and we have a lot of new features coming to help out here. First and foremost, we have some major improvements to weapon modding in the stash when you're using the drag and drop method. Now when you click on a part, any weapon that is compatible with will show a green indicator, and if you inspect the weapon, it will highlight the exact slot that it can fit into. This to me is pretty huge as a way to make modding more accessible, and it's a great feature. They also slightly tweaked the presets menu, where it will now show a preview of how the stats will change when you select a part, so you can easily compare two different options. There's also now going to be an option in the context menu or the right click menu for magazines that will let you load bullets right from your ammo case, which will save you some clicks and be an easy way to show what ammo you have that works with that magazine. Another huge change is that the Tarkov shooter quest line can now be completed with any bolt action rifle, turning a long hated quest into a fun excuse to build cool snipers and something the community has been begging for a long time. You can also unlock Jaeger much earlier now, since his quest becomes available after completing Gunsmith Part 1, which has been lowered to level 2. Next, we have a button that will be added to the stash and to each individual container and case to automatically sort the contents inside and free up space. This will be a huge time saver. Manual Tetris will always be the best way to organize things in your own way, but this will save a lot of time for small cleanup. Another feature that's widely been requested and now is being added is an improved group lobby where you can see all your friends' characters and loadouts before you go into the raid, which is going to make for a much more interesting pre-raid lobby screen. The final thing I would call a major change in terms of quality of life is a new hotkey where you can double tap Z or whatever you bind it to drop your backpack without entering your inventory. This is becoming increasingly important when you get into fights and have a heavy load in your backpack, so the ability to quickly drop it is a great addition. For some less intense quality of life changes, I'm just going to rapid fire list them off without talking about them too much. First, they've added a distance stat for each kill in the post-raid screen so you can see how long your shots are. Weapons can also now be chambered with 1 round from the pocket, which will be cool for snipers, and there's new hotkeys to empty the chamber and manually cycle the bolt. Some new indicators for the generator are being added, including a warning that you left the power on when you close the game, and an option to empty slots in the generator more quickly. The flea market gets a slight tweak as well, making it easier to buy the entire quantity of an offer without having an error message. They're also adding an option to leave up portions of the HUD permanently and to change the color of the damage display on your limbs if you want. Finally, players no longer need to pay for healing from levels 1 to 5, which is a pretty nice change for new players, and some minor tweaks were made to trader menus to make things a little bit more convenient. Next up, there's a bunch of changes that will slightly affect our in-raid experience in different ways. First up, the explosion of the GL40 grenade launcher has been nerfed, which is a welcome change if you ask me. Another ammo change is a buff to the armor pen of TT pistol rounds, which is great for early game players. Your character will also now always drop his magazine if you reload when flashbanged, which is going to be an interesting mechanic for sure. Computers will now be able to spawn SSD and SAS drives, which is going to be seriously awesome and make it so much easier to do the crafting for VPX that then get turned into graphics cards in the hideout. They also apparently will be adding a bunch of new items to the loot pool of military crates, which should spice up the loot tables a little bit. Reserve got a few changes to the player spawns, which hopefully eliminate some of the really harsh spawn points, and player scavs will now load in later to the raid than they did before. Finally, fall damage has been slightly increased, and more importantly, the trader restock time has been lowered to about 2 hours instead of 3 hours, meaning we can stock up on limited quantity items much more easily. Next up, we of course have another pass at optimizing the game for performance, which is always a nice touch. The interesting thing in this section is that they'll be adding a high quality color mode that's enabled by default. This should make the graphics a little bit more lively, and it can be disabled if you don't like it. They didn't elaborate a lot on the optimization, so we'll have to test it ourselves when the patch drops. Just like the 12.7 patch, we're seeing a lot of AI tweaks in 12.8, adding weapon sway to scav guns, improving their movement and use of cover, and fixing some bugs with their sightlines and aggro. Scavs will now be more aware of you moving, and will actually shout new taunts at you depending on what faction you're part of, which is going to be a pretty nice touch. Raiders will also now fight normal scavs, so we're going to see some interesting encounters in Reserve where raiders show up and massacre all the AI scavs. The rest of the patch notes is basically a laundry list of bug fixes related to desync, inventory, and things locking up. There's a lot of them listed in the patch notes, and it would take a long time to go through them all here, so I'm just going to link the patch notes and you can check them out yourself. One interesting note is that it says they fixed the SB98 trigger delay, which has me pretty excited because I already really like that rifle. That about covers it for my rundown of the 12.8 patch notes. I hope it was informative and hopefully I didn't miss anything major. It'll definitely be cool to see some of these features when they hit, and I can't wait to test stuff out and see how it all works. Now that I moved into my new place, I'll be back to streaming, so I've got links to my Twitch channel, Discord server, and Patreon page down below for anyone interested. Thanks for checking out the video. Let me know what you think of the changes in 12.8 down below, and until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.